Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first Tuesday Notary Titans of 2020. It's January 7th. My name is Bill Soroka. I'm the founder of NotaryCoach.com and the Sign and Thrive Notary Training Course and Community. Our co-host, Laura Buer, founder of CoachMeLaura.com. Laura, I'm glad you made it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Laura,
I did.
What's that?
I said, I'm so excited I did. I'm coming to you from Carmel today.
Nice. I love that. And Carol, I don't think she's, oh, there she is. Carol, you're on. How are you?
I'm terrific.
Good. Thank you so much for being here. This is Carol Ray, founder of Notary
Pro.
Love it. Love your new haircut too. Looks great.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for being here. We're going to go ahead and jump in. We've got questions that have been submitted. I'm sure it looks like we've got some live questions already in the chat window. But before we do that, I love that all three of us really have a focus on kind of planning and setting intentions for what 2020 is going to look like. And I think that's really important. Laura, you had sent over some information about the vision of yours and what you're excited about. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm so great at writing it down when I think of it because I'll forget it later, which I don't have it, so I probably forgot most of it. But let me tell you, one, I'm excited about the weddings in 3 weeks. Just so you know, on a personal note, I'm almost there, and I'm very excited. At the end of this month, my son is getting married. Now, let me talk about what's I'm excited about in this new year. And one is that I was turned on to this book called Tiny Habits. And of course, some of you will know about it if you're joining the book club. What I loved is how simple it can be for me to just identify small things. And I have a better chance at being successful past February 15th when most people are done with their New Year's resolutions. And so for me, I picked a theme which is thrive. And for me, that tells me to thrive means to thrive in business. It can't just be about business. It needs to be my health. It needs to be my social well-being, my connection with my partner. It means all the different areas of my life need to be in balance. So if that's my theme, then one of my tiny habits that I'm implementing, I've already implemented, and that is called building in the margin. And for me, building in the margin means that everything I know I have to schedule and do for the day, I need to add a little more time for it. So I know it only takes me 10 minutes, I'm gonna make it 15. I know it takes me 20 minutes to get there, I'm gonna add 10 more and make it 30. And that means I may or may not be able to do as many things in the day because I tend to book things back to back without a moment to go to the bathroom, take a breath, drink water, or do any of those things that would add value to the rest of my life, right? My health and well-being, or picking up the phone just to say hello to somebody that's not about business. So building in the margin for me is a tiny habit that I started implementing a few days ago that allow me to stay on time, allow me not to panic because, oh my God, something unexpected took longer than I thought. I have a client who's slower than usual. There's an unusual event, whatever it is, I've got some little pockets of time built into my day to accommodate. And if I didn't need them, great, maybe I get to finish my day a little sooner and have more time for myself later on and not be burned out by not letting my brain have a shutdown so often in the day and just take a breath. My brain needs to take a breath. So for me, my theme is thrive, and building in the margin is one tiny habit that I've implemented to help me do that.
I love that. That's, yeah, one thing closer to bring peace of mind. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Carol. Oh, you're muted. Oh, there, you're still muted.
Okay.
There you go. Carol, so what are you excited about either this week, or what's your intentions for 2020 look like?
Well, first of all, I'm excited because I'm alive. I just turned 77, and I want to thank everybody so much. I got to tell you a secret. everybody was so nice and happy birthdays and LinkedIn and, Facebook and everything. And I appreciate it so much. But when I woke up that morning and I thought, I'm 77, I'm going to do what I please today. And what I pleased to do was to not turn on my computer. It was to sit and watch old movies all day long. And that's what I did. So thank all of you for being so kind with your wishes. I appreciate it. I am really excited about what's coming up with the primetime notaries. And if you haven't heard, we're getting a group together, which is going to be people of a more senior age that will be talking about some of the things that we face every day. Being older, our sight's not quite as good. Sometimes we worry about our driving a little bit. But I mean, there's a lot of things that we face as we get older. And I have a lot of students and graduates. They're in their 50s and 60s, 70s. And I just spoke to one of my dear friends who is, what did he tell me, 86. And he's a student, been a student for years. So that's going to start on Thursday, the 9th. Is it? Yeah, Thursday. And we're going to be doing that at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So back east at 7 o'clock. And I do want you to know that there is a contact form. If you haven't already sent me your information, we have a contact form on notarytopro.com. I believe it's on the home page where you can register for it so we can send out an email with the link and everything. I can promise you I will not be as good as Bill at running the thing. So I'm going to fly him out here and have him teach us. But
no. You were going to do great.
But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be really interesting. And my theme, you said yours is Thrive, right, Laura?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mine's just stay alive. Stay alive and keep kicking.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And then for me, I'm big into planning. So I had some big plans for 2020, obviously still do, but the word that I was going to use, I'm changing. So I'll share that at another time because I'm letting it kind of simmer, and it's taking a little longer to simmer than anticipated. And it's important. If you take this work seriously, if you take your business seriously, if you take your growth and development seriously, and you really want to create something that's lasting and that you're still passionate about and feeling joyful for, it's so important to put in this work. Not everybody does it. In fact, most people don't do it, but most people don't enjoy their business and their life that they create as much as you want to, and you will. So putting a little bit of time in processing and really thinking about what's going to drive you and what's going to get you out of bed when on those days when you don't want to is extremely important. So I'll share more of that. What I'm really excited about in 2020, though, is all the passion that's coming up in this business and the people who are ready to go to the next level. There's so much opportunity that's still untapped. So I'm real excited about being a part of that with all of you. So thanks for being here. This is exciting. We've got 90 people on our time change. So let's dive in and let's answer some questions. Oh, yeah, we've got a special guest later on today in about 20 minutes. Jacqueline Phillips is going to come on. Jacqueline is as a graduate of Notary to Pro, she is the training and compliance manager for Notarize. So she's going to come on and tell us a little bit about what her role is at Notarize and what the opportunities are, where Notarize kind of sits with this remote online notarization. So without further ado, let's talk about, let's see, do we want to jump into the presentation or should we open up to some live questions? What do you think?
Does anybody have a burning desire?
Yeah. Who's got a burning question that's on the call right now?
I don't have a burning question. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Ruth.
So I just got an email from Coast to Coast Signing. I'm going to kind of jabber over it real quick, but the biggest thing is they put out a thing from St. Louis is the next time you are working on your financial documents or your mortgages, make sure that they are signing the full year. Because of it being 2020, it is very easy to change that year to 2019, taking 18 or whatever. So when you guys are doing your signings, it's a good rule of thumb to just start having your clients actually sign the full year and actually say 2020 instead of just 20.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I've seen the memes going through Facebook quite a bit. Sorry, we've got some background noise, so I'm just going to mute.
Bill, I have a question. This is Garrett in Albuquerque.
Yeah, Garrett, if you don't mind, I'm just going to hold off. I just want to wrap up on this, what Ruth
Sure.
just mentioned. Sure, thank you. So the great advice, and it's really, if you've got, especially for notaries that have been doing this forever and only date with the last two, include the full 2020 on your date, just so people can't go back and make it look like it was dated in the past, like 2019, 2018, 2017. Laura, have you experienced it? Have you heard anything on this?
My first signing of the year was yesterday. And I actually never have this happen. I had the real estate person and the lender, loan officer, present for my signing. And it was like the simplest signing ever. It was fabulous. But what was interesting is, as soon as we started with the documents, and I said, please sign and date, and I'd appreciate if you would use the full year. And immediately, both of them smiled and said, we're so happy to hear you offer that instruction that you wanted the whole year on it, the 2020. So they already had it in their minds that that's what they were going to want, but they allowed me to conduct the signing after the loan officer did the CD first, which was fabulous to listen to him do all the line items himself. And then when I went on and I did everything, they pretty much didn't poke their nose into anything. They loved two things. And one was that I asked for the 2020, and the other one is that I gave the oath. And they said, oh, that's never happened before. And she said, I've done 198 transactions in 2019. Not one notary administered an oath.
Wow.
And I'm in California. It's like, seriously? Anyway, she asked for my card. So it was a good signing.
Yeah, that's great. And good for her. 198 closings in 2019. She is a hustler. That's a great contact to have.
Yeah, real estate agent. She's doing a lot.
Yeah, no kidding. Great.
So
and then
do the 2020. They're noticing.
Do the 2020. Garrett, thank you so much for holding off. What's your question, sir?
Okay, mine is really a two-part question. Well, the first question I have is, and I apologize for my voice, do any of you, especially Bill, Carol, Laura, know what the saturation is in New Mexico with signing agents, or are you aware of how many of us there are? I got some feedback yesterday that there aren't very many of us in this area. And then my second question is it legal for a notary to threaten to hold on to to not give back somebody their ID? Because I had a signing yesterday. I had a last-minute signing. I met the gentleman at a bank, and he said he had a horrible experience with the notary earlier that day, where it got down to the fact where the notary threatened to keep his ID, including a DOD ID, and not return those IDs to him over a timing issue. The fact that he wanted to sit there and read the documents, and she had something within an hour, that she had another appointment within an hour.
Well, yeah. Laura, do you want to take that second part?
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's never okay for a notary to withhold documents, withhold IDs, withhold anything from the signer. They don't belong to us.
And we are not law enforcement officers, guys.
Oh.
Even if you're coming across fraud, unless you're specifically instructed to in your state, our job is not to enforce the law. So we are never going to interject. I mean, we don't have training for that. We're not armed. You know, we're not going to go down that road. We just observe and report.
Now, if it's a notary who works in a bank, the bank may have a policy, and that's not notary law.
Yeah.
That might be just employment policy.
Now, as far as the first half of the question, let's talk about this. You asked about saturation, and if you ever want to know how many certified loan signing agents there are, you can just go to signingagent.com and type in your zip code. You could also do that any of the other directories, but I tend to use Signing Agent because it brings up everybody who's certified through the NNA right there. still that is not a very accurate information. So or it just depends on what you're really looking for, because somebody that has passed the test is on that list. Does that mean they're actively working their business? I can tell you as a owner of a signing company who's constantly going through that list to call people, it does not appear that there's a whole lot on there that are working at least full time or have great availability. So it's not, it might skew your numbers a little bit, but if you just want to see how many are certified, you can go there and check it out.
Well, I can tell you, I was looking for someone there, about 6 months ago, because company that we work with that does I-9s, he was looking for someone to sit for several days and make a lot of money to do, just sit and do I-9s. And I couldn't find anybody in the area. I finally found one of my graduates, forgot that she even lived there. And she goes to, they have the Indian reservations there. And she's able, she said she makes a lot of money doing I-9s at the Indian reservations, because like they had a pharmacy, they built a pharmaceutical something there at one of the reservations. And she goes and sits, and she might do 50 employees that are being hired, and she'll do them in a day or two. It makes quite a bit of money there. But looking for somebody to sign there was not easy. There's not very many.
Yeah. And there's, even when there are guys, there's still like it, just to like what Carol was saying, even when there are tons of notaries, it's sometimes hard to find some that pick up the phone, that have the availability. So there's usually always going to be opportunity here. And I actually wrote a blog too. You can read it on my blog on Notary Coach, but it talks about the oversaturation. And there's always, always, always room for the best in these situations. So if you're in a relationship-based business, I know we say it all the time, but it is so true. One person can change everything in this business. If you pick up the phone, if you send an email, if you actively work to cultivate a relationship, that is the advantage that you have over other notaries that do not do that. And guess what? That's probably 95% of us. We're not out there actively cultivating the relationships that we have with the schedulers, with the escrow officers, or the closing agents, or the lenders. There's this, especially now that SnapDocs is here, there's this set it and forget it mentality sometimes, where you just sign up for SnapDocs and you sit back and you wait for the phone to ring. In some cities that works, but in most cities it doesn't work. You have to work more for what you want in this. Anything
I always
further
tell
on
students when they say that there's a lot of people in their area and everything. Listen, it's all about who you are and your training, and you're reaching out to people like Bill and to Laura to expand what you've already learned to do, and being the best. The cream rises to the top, and I'm telling you, it does all the time. You see people that are just one among 20 in a little area. That cream rises to the top. So don't look at what everybody else is doing. Pay attention to what you're doing and how you're teaching yourself and learning how to expand your business.
Love it. Anybody else live on the call that has questions, comments?
I thought I saw Matt post a question about a fine.
Oh yeah, he asked what's the fine
oath?
for the lack of oath. Yeah.
In California, it's up to $750 per oath not administered.
Wow. Yeah, that adds up quick.
Yeah, it does. They catch you.
Yeah. All right, great question. Okay, so let's jump into the slide show here. Tessa, did you have a question?
Yes, I was wondering, I'm here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and I got my certification through the NNA. But it's kind of hard. I've been trying to go to different or look up different mortgage companies and lenders and title companies, but no one has reached out yet. And I'm patient, but I just want to, do do my best in this business. I've been a notary for 2 years, but I just, became a signing agent. So I'm just eager and willing to, jump into it, but I know it takes time. So what kind of advice you can give me on my journey?
Great question, Tessa. And I love that you are here with us. So thank you for being here. And I think we could have some great suggestions for you. Number one, outside of the NNA, have you joined any other courses or communities that share this type of information?
Yes, I'm on Notary Institute. I've been, taking some courses and looking into that, but I also wanted to get into Carol's class as well. I've been, watching her videos, and so I'm wanting to get a little bit more educated, I should say, to perfect my craft and what I want to do. So, I'm looking to get into one of Carol's classes as well.
I think that's a huge first step, and it might actually be the only big step that you have to take. That's the amazing thing when you join Notary to Pro, Sign and Thrive, whatever it is that calls to you. We have these communities set up where we share these information. And Carol, you can speak to the list that you have for your graduates of all the companies that love working with you. So you get this list of companies that hire us and with a good reputation, like with the Notary to Pro certification, you get your foot in the door with those.
Well, I heard something really exciting yesterday. After 10 years, I had a new student yesterday, and she said that she started calling people, wanting to sign up for them. She was not yet a student of mine or a graduate. And she said that she went to 4 different places, and they said, well, do you have NNA and Notary to Pro certification? I'm like, oh my God, I made it.
Nice.
It was very exciting. It was like,
Yeah.
who are they?
Awesome. Yeah, that's that feels good whenever you're finally appreciated. You've been doing this for a long time. So Tessa, I think Carol's going to have some great resources for you too. And this, for the sake of everybody else on the call too, one of the other communities that we often talk about on here is Carrie Rivera's Notary Reviews community. She's got a whole community of people that are encouraged to review their experience when these hiring companies hire them for signings. So she has a list of over 500 companies now that are reviewed and rated by people like us that get hired by those companies. So you know which companies to avoid and which ones are really good to work for. So that's a great option for you as well. Just know that you do not have to do this alone. You get to work for yourself, but you're not by yourself. There are amazing communities, especially with those that are on this call right now, that love to share information, and they're looking to help and support each other as well, so they can share this information. Awesome. Anybody?
Can I share something, Bill, real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have some absolutely outstanding graduates with big open hearts, and I have had so many of them say, listen, I don't even want to charge them, but I would like to help you mentor some of the students that are struggling and give them extra attention and care. And I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start letting some of the best of the best that I feel really confident will hold their hand and really help people to elevate themselves. I think I'm going to start doing that.
Love that.
I'd like to know how people feel about it.
Love it. Great idea. Hank, you have a question, sir.
Bill, hello. How you doing today?
Hi there. I'm great. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thanks. Got to get used to this new time too. I got a question for you. I was watching a YouTube video. Someone was talking about loan signings, and they say there's a form, a subordinate agreement or a subordinate clause, and it was reminding the notary loan signing agent not to forget to have the borrower sign that clause, and you had to add your own certificate because the certificate on the document was already notarized by the lender's notary. You guys can speak on that a little bit?
Sure. Do you just need to know what a subordination agreement is or does, or what's your question on it?
Would it be confusing for the notary when he open up a package and he see that document there to know that he's supposed to add his own certificate?
Yeah. Laura, do you want to take that one?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what
Yeah, no problem. So
final
he's just,
question was.
there is a subordination agreement. So maybe you can speak to a subordination and maybe why a notary would be expected to bring their own certificate since the other one had already been used by the lender.
Well, the subordination agreement, it's going to be signed by them and notarized by them, and then you've got your signer. And if there's no certificate for them pre-printed, you'll have to have your own in order to notarize for the signer who's in front of you. And I'd rather have you or Carol talk more about what a subordination agreement is, because that's not my strong suit there.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, no problem. Go for it, Carol.
It's one of the things I have in the course. There's some documents that I know never show up in where it's easy to learn what they are. A subordination agreement is normally in place when a lender is in second place. In other words, might have a first and a second on the property. There's a new first coming in. They might be refinancing and they're substituting, paying off the existing first and putting a new first in place. They need to get permission from the lenders that hold the second place in writing, and it has to be, acknowledged, recorded, everything, that they have agreed, this second lender, to remain in second place. If that's not done, this could be catastrophe for the first lender, because they could be loaning $300,000 on a home where the second place might be a $20,000 loan. And if this subordination agreement isn't executed properly, then that second lien holder with his $20,000 lien would be in first place, which could put the second place lender with $300,000 in jeopardy. And normally, I rarely see a subordination agreement where the borrower or the owner of the property signs. Once in a while, but generally, it's something that the notary can just turn over because it's signed by the second lender and notarized by whoever witnessed their signature.
Right.
And because of that, thank you, Carol, for that explanation. But because of that, the particular instructions for your situation will probably be spelled out in the notary instructions. But if not, you just slow down and kind of take a review and see what it is that they're looking for there. We'll run into those types of documents a lot, whether it's a allonge or another document regarding the transfer of a loan or the payoff of a loan, where the lenders are, and you'll see language that's specific to the lenders, and it's corporation, officer of a corporation or something like that you'll see. Does that answer your question, Hank?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for bringing that up. And we're going on right about 12:30 Pacific time. I think this would probably be a great time, Carol, to introduce Jacqueline Phillips, don't you think?
I would be my pleasure. Her name is Jacqueline Phillips, and she was a graduate of mine, and we've both, I forgot, 2015, quite a long time ago. And she has now become the new training and compliance officer for Notarize. I'm going to let her tell you about Notarize. I'm just going to briefly say that this was the first software company that came up with the remote closings. And briefly, a few years ago, one of the partners came to my home, wanted to demonstrate the product, software product, because I was very verbally not for it. And but they convinced me that it was safe, And what they wanted to do was to use our graduates to start the program in the state of Virginia. So it is my pleasure to introduce Jacqueline to everyone. Hopefully she's here.
Yeah, Jacqueline, are you here?
I am. I'm taking myself off mute.
Hi there. Thanks for joining.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. Is it okay for me to show a slide deck? I kind of have a slide deck just to have my notes in place.
Nice. Is it shareable, or do you just want to talk through
It's
it?
shareable. Just let me know if you see it when you do.
Nice.
Right.
I love it. You're prepared.
I try to be. Let me hit the present button here. And I'm a little, so thank you for having me today. I am, like Carol said, a graduate of hers back in 2015. I'm going to talk a little bit about remote online notarization. So I am with Notarize, the training compliance manager. Before I was a notary, I've been an accountant for over 20 years. So that attention to detail is what I brought over into my notary signing agent role. So I became a notary in 2002. I was working for an accounting firm that required a notary on staff. So I took that step, became a notary public. And then in 2010, I got that call from a very, very, very known company, I won't mention the name, that underpaid their notaries and said, would you like to do a signing? And I was like, sure, what is this all about? And put my toe in it and have absolutely just loved doing notary signing for loan departments and for loan companies and for signing services. But as you know, most states don't have education. So went out there, got myself educated. First place, of course, out there being is, of course, NNA. So I took their class and started learning what you need to become to be a notary signing agent and notarizing documents correctly, which, of course, is the bread and butter of what you're doing. So took that class, and I'm kind of going to go forward a little bit. Went with Miss Carol, took her class, took others, and then with being a Notarize and remote online notarization, I was the workshop speaker in 2019, and I'll also be the workshop speaker in 2020 about remote online notarization. So kind of going back to the education piece, Virginia doesn't require, there's many other states that don't require a proficiency test. So a notary, in order to become a great notary, you can be an okay notary, but become a great notary, you need to educate myself. So I went to Carol, NNA, 123, Fidelity, different other places that I went for education. And the reason that is so important, you can't notarize documents if you don't know how to look at them, you don't know how to make sure you execute them correctly, making sure that the notarial statement is correct. Carol taught me a lot of that, and because of her and because of her training, when Pat and Adam, the co-owners for Notarize, went looking for folks that needed to notarize documents, they didn't have the time to train notaries. They went to the people who've done it the best. Carol, there's one place here in Virginia also that she does some local notaries, so they went to her, but Carol was the place that they went looking for notaries. Like Carol says, Pat went out to her place. He tells us the story that he took an Uber out to her place and didn't remember that he didn't know how he was going to get back because of where Carol lived. So that was a really cool part of the whole story when Pat told me how he met Carol. So because of that training, back in February of now 2016, I'll be with Notarize 4 years. And Carol, I was introduced to Notarize. So their office is in Boston. That's where our corporate office is. That's where Pat is. He's the background as far as the platform, how it works. That part of it is what Pat does. And then Adam is more the legal side of Notarize. So we've won all kinds of awards. We've held our first conference this year in Florida because that's the next place that we're taking Notarize to. So we made history. We've done the first closing with a Chicago couple. They were closing their Michigan property. So Notarize is the one that's kind of trailblazing all the Notarize remote online notarization laws, the rules, how it's done, making sure that the things that Carol has taught us that title agents don't know, of making sure you cross your I's, dot your T's, make sure documents are notarized correctly. I've taken her training And then from becoming just a remote online, starting as a traditional notary with everything that I learned from Carol, and then going to that hybrid where you do some online and you do some on paper. I've done some of that, all based on Carol's training. And then with Notarize, I've done the remote online notarization. So with the remote online notarization, there's some things that you need to know about remote online notarization. The biggest thing that people are like, so what is it? So what I call it is a cross between Docusign and Skype. So you're making sure that the signer signs everything electronically, but you're seeing the signer. So of course, everybody knows when remote online notarization came out, it's like, you're not seeing the signer and the notary are not meeting together. They still are meeting together. They're meeting via webcam. So Notarize brings in all the platform or the electronic portion to make sure that it's secure for the notary and the signer to meet. And then all the things that are required in your journal are also in there. So the platform Notarize makes sure all those things are in place. So if you had to ever go to court or someone asked you about the signing, that all those things would be in place. So a lot of the notaries are like, so what are some of the best practices? It's the same things that you do in traditional. You're going to make sure that you have personal appearance. Oops, hit the wrong button. Personal appearance. You're going to still identify the signer. The biggest thing that I teach when I was training a compliance manager is that you need to watch what you say. Some of the things that you would say in traditional, you're definitely not going to say when your audio and video recorded, because that's part of your journal. It's part of what the signer gets. It's part of what the business partners get when you're doing those loan signings. So you're going to absolutely watch what you say on every one of your videos. The other part is know your state's law. Even though you're notarizing for other states, it's just like if I'm here in Virginia, someone in California is traveling here to Virginia and they need documents signed and they meet with a Virginia notary, you're going to follow Virginia law. The same thing, you're going to follow whatever states that you're in. You're going to make sure you know your law. And then on top of just your traditional laws, you're going to need to know your e-notary laws. So there's some things that you're going to be able to do as a traditional notary that you're not going to be able to do as a remote online notary. So the biggest things as far as a Virginia notary is wills. So a Virginia notary, even though I can notarize a will as a traditional notary, I'm not going to be able to notarize a will as an e-notary. So those are the things that you're going to need to make sure that you educate yourself. Are there some states that allow will signing? Yes, the state of Nevada actually wrote into their law when they passed their law back in 2018 that Nevada notaries can actually sign wills online. Are there some guidelines in that? Yes, there is. And each state will need to know what their guidelines are. State of Florida passed that notaries will be able to do remote witnessing. A Virginia notary can't do witnessing. That's probably the biggest thing that as a notary, we know that when we're at the table and you're a Virginia notary, that you can also be one of the witnesses on a document. With online notary, you can't. Why? Because you're not with the signer. So that signer now has to bring 2 witnesses with them in order to perform a remote online notarization. So the biggest thing is with remote online notarization, your personal appearance still, identify the signer, whatever your state's law is, know those laws. And then of course, know your e-notary law and what you can do as traditional to make sure that you're still making sure your license is in place. So which states have allowed remote online notarization? Of course, Virginia was the first one, Texas and Nevada. Then there's a whole bunch that came through this year. Montana had actually passed the same time as Virginia. They just had a redeployment. They had made it very limited. It had to be a Montana notary. It was a Montana person and a Montana document. So they actually just changed their law to be more aligned with Texas and Nevada, where they can do a lot more than even the Virginia notaries can do. There's Tennessee, Florida, of course, that came on board on the beginning of this year. Idaho, Kentucky, and Oklahoma also came on of January 1. There's 4 states that have passed. There's some that's passed with limitations. And then there's other states that are right now in the process of passing laws. California probably being the biggest one right now, that they're still determining whether they're going to pass remote online law or not. So a little bit of best practice, a little bit about me, a little bit about where remote online notarization is going. And that's what I was bringing for today for TNT. I knew I had a limited time.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. That really was a well-organized presentation that gives us a look inside what to expect on Notarize. And one of the questions that we had in the chat window, if that's okay, Jacqueline, was there are some states like Montana that does not have Notarize in it yet. Do you know, is there an expectation of when Notarize will go to Montana?
Absolutely. The great thing about Notarize right now, we're just going to make sure that we dot all our I's and cross all our T's. So we do have Virginia, Texas, Nevada. We are bringing Florida on as our first venture into title agents or title companies have been wanting to be on our platform. So with our announcement at Rewire, the first company that's going to be doing that, sorry, I'm trying to make sure I get some power here. I don't want to lose you. We're going to explore with Florida notaries being through a title agent, and then this is going to be our first foray into what we're going to hear. It's called the Notiverse, or we're going to expand to all states. So we're doing this as a first step, and then you should hear between now and the end of the year where we're just going to expand this across the whole United States. So it's going to be really exciting.
Awesome. And if you don't mind, there's one question that I get asked quite a bit about Notarize in particular, because I think there's some misconceptions about how to work with Notarize. Can you talk to us a little bit more about how a notary can work and what the work environment looks like? Like, are you at home? Do you have to go to a call center? What's it look like?
Absolutely. So when I first started at Notarize, I was working out of my home. So we had original group of 7 notaries that we just kind of like jumped right in based on Carol's good push and said, I think this is a great place to start with remote online notarization. So we started out in that venture doing mainly just what we call GMP work, just general notary public work, your POAs, your tattoo forms, your consent to travels. So that's where Notarize started. As we moved into the remote online notarization, most of you know that remote online notarization everybody was like a little hands up. Whoa, what's going on? We're not sure. So a lot of the underwriters required us to have call centers, like you guys call it, where the notary will come into a secure place in order to do those loans. So right now we have a little bit of both. So we have some notaries that do work from home, and then that do not do any of our mortgages. And then we have some of the notaries that come into our call center in Texas and in Virginia in order to perform those mortgages that are required, the underwriters that require us to have a call center, just because of security. We see as this grows, and just like, right now a traditional notary prints off documents off their computer and goes to someone's house and travels in their car and comes back home and then scans and faxes back. So it's just allowing the time for education and for everybody to feel comfortable with this new way of doing online notarization. And we definitely see where it will go, where you will be getting a phone call from your favorite title agent and saying, hey, you're going to meet with the signer at 2:00, or what we do is open signing. The signer is going to just come through at any given time in that 24-hour period and get their document notarized. So that's how we kind of do it right now with Notarize.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Thanks for the clarification. Awesome. Carol, did you have any more questions for Jacqueline? I'm sorry, you're on mute there, so I couldn't hear you. I'm still on mute. Let me hit unmute.
Okay.
There you are.
I was actually going to address what you basically said, because my concern, Jacqueline, was that once this got started at the beginning, when they were doing it from their home, I even experienced it, because it's a long story, but I had to have something notarized. And one of my students answered the phone, and we had our big chuckle. But she notarized it. I couldn't believe it was done, and
Yes.
I sent it off to the state of Arizona. But then I started hearing about these call centers, and my concern was, is this going to be like now where they're employed, they sit there 8 hours, they get an hourly pay, or is it going to be open to other arrangements? Because the big thing about what we do is that we're independent.
Yes.
And we love our independence.
Yes.
And I never want to work for another corporation again. I don't want to sit in some building somewhere. So is there going to be a mixture then eventually?
Yes, so the plan is if you went to Rewire, the plan will be a mixture. It will be going, right now it's employee based just because, I mean, it's just like anywhere you're starting anywhere brand new. Everyone's done traditional for so long. You now have signing centers. Most of it was you work for a title agent or you work for the lender or you work for whoever it was. And then as expansion grew, then it went to everyone was independent contractors. The same thing. It's just, it's a trailblazing. So right now, in order to just having 500-600 people trying out our platform, and if it's, we need to tweak a little bit here, we tweak a little bit there to get it to where we're going to have it to present. We have employees right now just knock those what am I trying to say? Just bang it out and just make sure everything is perfect. So when we put it out to Bill or you or wherever you are across the United States, you're just rolling. You're just kind of just getting it done and making your money as an independent contractor.
Now, how about the education? Is that going to come directly from Notarize? They're training their own people? Because I
Yes.
understand that they're doing like 100 hours.
Yeah, so right now I am the training and compliance manager. So we know what NNA training looks like. We know what your training looks like. It's very in depth. So we kind of taking a little bit of NNA, some of yours, some of what I've learned, and it has to be more because their employees were kind of more responsible to make sure that those documents are notarized correctly. They're seeing things that I didn't even see as a general notary public. We're seeing a lot of Frankenforms. Frankenforms are documents that don't have correct notarial language, no notarial language, and having to explain to the signer, I'm a notary and I can't tell you what notarial language goes on there. So you have to teach some of that quality assurance, teaching some of those soft skills, how to deal with a signer who's escalated, because remember, we're audio video recorded. So some of the things that you could, like I said, get away with or not have to look pretty about when you tell someone, you have to now look pretty when you tell some of these things. So we're teaching all of that in our training. So right now it is internal training that we do with the notaries. We are working on with the FAN on having some kind of training that will be more of kind of like you could go to Bill and you're going to get Bill's training. You're going to go to Carol, you're going to get a little training. You're going to NNA and get your little training. Everyone's got a little bit of twist, but you can learn a little bit from everyone. So it's going to be the same thing. And we'll offer our training and you can still go out and get additional training. Why? Because you educating yourself is what's going to make you the best. One title agent might require this training. This title agent requires this, and this title agent. We do the same thing in traditional.
Well, and I, as a trainer of people all over the country, if my students start to come to me and they say, I really want to do that, I want to work with Notarize, what is the next step? Do I send them to somebody? Do I have them just contact, say, you, for instance? Or?
Absolutely. So you can have them contact me. The biggest thing is that they're going to have to be close to, for right now, our call centers. Because like I said, we're just trying to get it all tweaked so that we can send it out to the masses. So right now we're kind of keeping it close to the vest, just kind of just learning it, making sure that everything's in place legally for everyone, and then we'll deploy it to the bigger picture. So right now we're in the Fairfax area. If you're in Virginia, we're in the Dallas Irving area. If you're in the Texas area, and those are the offices that we are kind of working with right now. Eventually we'll be working on Florida. Like I said, we are working on that shortly right now, but those are the two offices that we're gearing for. So if you go to our careers page and sign up as a notary signing specialist, if you send the name to you and you send it to me, I can make sure that they go to the top. I actually did a class in Maryland Day with some of the NNA folks back in November, and I got some great leads from that. They reached out to me and I made sure that they were the ones speaking to the persons that are doing all the interviewing. I don't do any interviewing, I just do the training.
So people like Bill, Laura, and myself, we can contact you, and we can, as these call centers expand, we can find out where those are so that we can pass that information on. If I have a student in Montana or whatever,
Yes,
pass
ma'am.
things on to you guys. That's great.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. So I'm going to be in contact with you again, Miss Carol, on a regular basis, let you know what's popping up so you and I can talk to each other. And then, of course, then you can disperse that to the rest of the TNT team.
Thank you
Awesome.
so much. And I thank you. And I'm sure Bill and Laura do for doing this today.
Absolutely. No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yep, definitely. Thank you, Jacqueline. Really appreciate that. Great presentation. All right, guys. Thank you. So that is just one avenue for remote online notarization for sure. There are lots of other avenues. This is an exciting time to be a part of it because there are, just like Jacqueline spoke to, there are companies out there who are trailblazing and they're kind of figuring it out as they go as well, because this is new for everybody. There's no precedent here. All right, so let's jump in. We still have about 9 more minutes. I think we should open it up for the presentation questions. So let's go ahead and jump in here now. Bear with me one second. There we go. All right, there's the new 2020 TNT cover. All right. When doing general notary work for the first time, for first-time customers, do you typically charge them up front or wait until the job is finished? I'm not sure how risky it would be to not get paid if you do the notarization first and you've never done business with them before. Laura, do you have a minute to speak to that?
So can you hear me?
Yeah, sure can.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. So I ask for my money when I'm done. I don't ask for it up front. Is it a little more risky? Well, I guess it could be, but I've not had an experience really where they refuse to pay me at the end. I have heard of notaries that something's gone south and they were refused their money, but it's never happened to me. So my procedure would be I take care of the work. I let them know up front that the payment is expected and how I can take payment. But I don't actually take their money and do the receipt till the end.
And I'm right there with you, Laura. I always deliver service first. The thing is that there is a very small percentage of a chance that you might get stiffed on a deal, but it's so small, I would not tailor my entire business around it. And the reality is, if you have one situation where that gut instinct is just really going off and you're afraid you won't get paid, then you probably shouldn't do that anyway. If your gut instinct is somebody's going to bail on you, then skip that appointment. What is a conveyance on a deed of trust, and how can a notary know if something is suspicious? Carol, can you help us out on that one?
I don't know what he means by conveyance. You're talking about a transfer of the assignment of a deed of a trust. Assignment of a deed of trust is when the lender is selling the loan at the close of escrow, and that's where the allonge comes in. That's the transfer of the interest in the note, and the assignment of a deed of trust is the transfer of the deed of trust from the one lender to the next lender. Is that what they are asking?
You know, I love that, and I think I interpret this as maybe a conveyance document, such as a deed of trust or a warranty deed or something. Those high-risk documents I've been seeing. I think there was a blog post about the high-risk real estate documents, and I think the question is more, how do we know if something's suspicious, like on a grant deed or something like that? Maybe we can speak to that a little bit, because those are high-risk documents. But when it comes down to it, our job is the same regardless. Our job is to make sure that the person is who they say they are and that they're signing that document of their own free will. So it's just like any other notary process. The things to look for, I think Laura can even speak to this too, because sometimes in general notary work, we do run into certain documents that are of higher risk. So we need to be alert, make sure that the signer is alert and aware of what's going on, that there's not a family member who might be coercing them or forcing them to sign. Laura, do you have anything else on the conveyance documents? Did we lose Laura? I think she was going back in for something. And if we did not answer your question here, whoever submitted this, feel free to follow up and we'll get that answered. All right. Is there any software or programs that I need to have? And this person's in Alabama. So this is pretty vague, so it's really hard to answer. But Carol, do you have any software programs that you usually recommend to people that are must-haves?
I have a couple of things. One of them is one of the best programs I've ever used, and I used it for all the years that I was a signing agent, or quite a few of the years, and that's Notary Assist. I know there's two good ones. Notary Gadget, I understand from people, is good. I found that I prefer Notary Assist. It will do everything for you. It keeps track of how much you're owed, who owes you, where you've gone. You can even type in the location of your signings with all that information. Every signing is in there and it stays in there, and it will tell you how many miles from your home to where you're going. The greatest thing about it is it does your expenses, it does everything. Okay. And at the end of the year, when you're getting ready for taxes, my husband would say to me, print some reports out. And it was all there, made it just completely great. I mean, it was great. So I happen to love that one.
And I'm right there with you. I love the Notary Assist. I love Google Maps or Waze, even although Waze has led me astray. Mile IQ has been very helpful for keeping track of mileage outside of Notary Assist. Trying to think. Oh, and I like the Tiny Scanner Pro for scanning documents quick and easy right on my phone. Those are just a few of them. Those are just suggestions, though. I don't know of any actual requirements. All right, still not sure what a VA guaranteed loan assumption rider it really means, in case they ask. Carol, you want to touch on that?
No.
So the rider on any document usually just means that it rides along with it. So on the loan assumption rider, it could be to the note, it could be on the deed of trust or the mortgage document as well. Essentially, all it does is it lays out the terms for how a VA loan could be assumed. And by assumed means you just have a well-qualified or equally qualified borrower that wants to take over the loan. These were really popular in the 70s and 80s. I have not seen any, though, since any loan actually be assumed since I've been in this business. So I don't necessarily know that it happens a lot anymore, but still it just lets them know that you can just explain it just like that. This goes over the loan assumption rules for this VA loan.
You know, I've had questions lately about PMI. So can I tell people about that in case they don't know about it? If you see that on your closing documents, PMI and MMI are like a private mortgage insurance or mortgage insurance. And what that is that there's a fee that's charged based on the people's credit, the length of the loan, how much the loan is, where they pay a premium every month. And it usually goes for like 8 to 10 years. They have to pay that premium. And basically what that is that's kind of a guarantee to the lender that even if the borrower forecloses or doesn't make their payments, that they will be paid off. So it's kind of an incentive to help the borrower obtain the loan, because the lender isn't worried that these people are not going to make their payments. It's an insurance policy that guarantees that the lender is going to be paid off no matter what.
Beautiful. Excellent explanation and a great way for us to end the call today. That brings us right up to 1 o'clock Pacific time. Thank you all for joining us at the new time. Thank you for growing yourself and your business. Carol, Laura, thank you so much for all your time today. We'll see you next week. Have a great week.
Everybody have a good week.